Let's take a deep breath together. As we move into this part of our service, and as usual, at the beginning of each month, I say, can you believe it's a new month already? And can you believe it's February already? Here we are into the second month of this year. And time is marching on, and we are marching right along with it. This month, our theme is new beginnings, new beginnings. That is so exciting to me, new beginnings. And I deliberately did not talk about new beginnings in January. That's usually the time in religious science churches when new beginnings and going back to basics is discussed during that time. But I didn't want to do that because we sometimes relate new beginnings to New Year's resolutions. And as we know, resolutions are generally gone by February, they are out the window, and certainly by March. Resolutions are just gone by the wayside. And that's not what we're talking about with new beginnings. We're talking about really allowing ourselves to begin again in each and every moment. Ernest Holmes says that we're on the pathway of eternal progress. Eternal progress. So that means that new beginnings are happening all the time, not just at the first of the year, at the beginning of a new year. It's all the time, every day is an opportunity for a new beginning. Every moment holds the promise of something new starting, something new happening. And so that's what I'm inviting us to really be open to, new beginnings, because in our own personal lives, in our community life at Creative Living Fellowship, we're really in the process of beginning again. And that is so exciting. And so what I want to talk with you about today is on the brink. On the brink. Let's breathe that in, on the brink. Usually on the brink means being on the edge of something. And usually it's thought of as something negative, like being on the brink of collapse, or being on the brink of bankruptcy, or being on the brink of disaster of some kind. And being on the brink, it just means being on the edge. Technically, it meant being on the edge of a cliff, but you can be on the edge of a cliff and leap off and fly. So being on the brink doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be, even if you were thinking that you're on the brink of a breakdown, what that means is that you're on the brink of a breakthrough, because sometimes you have to break down in order to break through. And so just knowing that whole idea of being on the brink can be a time of excitement, a time of enthusiasm, a time of wonder. And so that's what I'm inviting for us, that we are on the brink. We are on the brink of a new day. We are on the brink of a new life. We are on the brink of a new way of living. And so much has changed, as we all know, over these past 2 years, that we have moved into and have been in a new normal. And there's so many people who are spending their lives just can't wait to get back to normal, can't wait to get back to the way things used to be. That's not happening, because once something changes, everything changes. Once something changes, everything changes. Once something changes, everything changes. When nothing changes, nothing changes. But when something changes, everything changes. And so life has changed forever for us. The life that we once knew has changed forever. Normal that we once knew has changed forever. And thank God for that. Thank God for that, because we're either changing and growing, or we're stagnating and decaying. And that's not good either. So what we want to do is to really look at what are we on the brink of? What are we on the brink of? We're on the brink of a new day. We're on the brink of a new way. We're on the brink of a new life. We're on the brink of the sky's the limit, and beyond the sky's the limit. And so that's what I want us to really look at today, being on the brink of a new day, we're on the brink of change. We're on the brink of opportunity. We're on the brink of possibilities. We're on the brink of everything, of blessings beyond measure, beyond our wildest imaginings. And so that's the energy that I want us to be in. That's the energy that I want us to move in. That just being on the brink and being on the brink, not with fear, not from a place of fear, but from a place of excitement and enthusiasm. Excitement and enthusiasm, knowing that wherever we are, whatever the brink means for us, God is in the midst of it. God is in the midst of it. And so what we want to learn to do is to open up and allow that power and that presence, that only power and that presence that is, to flow through us, to I want to say impel us, but to move through us, to move us forward. And so that's what I'm inviting you to do today, to fasten your seatbelts, know that you're on the brink, and be there, be with it. And so as we move through this, there are a couple of things I want, well, three things that I always give you to just keep in mind. And the first thing is, let's go back to basics. Let's go back to basics. As I said earlier, that in religious science churches, we always go back to basics at the beginning of the year, starting with the foundations class, and we're going to be having the foundations class here. But just going back to basics in our lives, just going back to basics, just getting back to the basic way that really sustains us in our lives. Just remembering, just when it comes to our personal lives, our personal selves, our individual lives, going back to basics of just taking care of ourselves, practicing good self-care, sleeping properly, eating properly, exercising, whatever it is that gets us into a place of taking care of ourselves. That's where we want to be, just in that place of self-care, that place of getting back to basics, doing those things that we know anchor us, that we know sustain us, that we know take care of us. Getting back to basics, being in that place of an open heart, being in that place of open-heartedness and a place of love, coming from a place of love, living our lives from a place of love rather than fear. That's going back to basics, living our lives from a place of love, from that love-inspired place, rather than that fear-induced place. That's how we want to live our lives, from that place that is love-inspired rather than fear-induced. And so, as we go through this time, as we get back to basics, that's what we want to learn to do. Those things that take care of us. I was looking at a story yesterday about kids in school system in Denver, and there's a huge concern, not only in Denver but throughout the country, throughout the world, for the mental health of kids, particularly over the past 2 years since they've been out of school. They've been out of touch with each other. They haven't had that personal interaction. So in the Denver school system, they have really decided to focus on mental health in the schools. And so they have mandated that all schools have set aside a 20-minute period each day for mental health. And they start the day off with mental health practices for the school system. In every school, every grade, every class, every day, they are practicing mental health principles. And so there are some schools that have yoga. There are some schools that have mindfulness practices. They showed one school where the teacher starts off with a singing bowl, starting with that calming sound of the singing bowl, playing that for the students in the morning to move them into a mental health practice. And there was a kindergarten class that the teacher had this game that she had the children playing called Red Light, Green Light. And they were concerned about teaching children because the statistics had shown that fights in schools had increased over 20% over the last couple of years. And so they wanted to really help kids to move into that place of calm and learning to deal with their emotions. So this kindergarten class had this game called Red Light, Green Light. And when kids felt their emotions boiling over, then they had to stop, feel their feelings, and then take a big, deep belly breath. And so they had the kids to line up when they just to go through this exercise each morning. They had the little kids to line up, and they'd say, when you're feeling really angry, when your emotions are boiling over, what do you do? And all the kids said, stop, feel my feelings, and take a big, deep belly breath. Can't we all do that? Can't we all use that? Can't we all, when we feel our emotions are boiling over, when we feel ourselves getting so tense, when we feel ourselves getting so upset, when we feel ourselves getting so caught up in the stuff out there, the external things, can't we all just stop and feel our feelings? Stop and feel our feelings, and then take a big, deep belly breath? Let's take a big, deep belly breath right now. I encourage you to try that. I encourage you to try that, because as adults, we get so caught up in all the things because we hear so many things of the world. We get involved in so many concerns and cares and whatever, that we get caught up. We get caught up, and before we know it, we aren't always aware of what we're feeling. We aren't always aware of what we're experiencing. Sometimes we're just moving on automatic pilot because we have so many things to take care of, so many things to be concerned about, so many things that we have to do, that we have to just remember this is one of the basic things: to stop, to just stop and feel our feelings. Stop and identify our feelings, and then take a big, deep belly breath. And then move from that place, because that big, deep belly breath centers us. That big, deep belly breath centers us. And so that's why I'm always encouraging us to breathe. Just take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath, because it brings us back to our center. And then when we come back to our center, we can act from that centered place. We can move from that centered place. And that's how we deal with being on the brink of whatever it is we're on the brink of, whether it's something that's really exciting, or whether it's something that is not quite as good as we'd like it to be. But whatever it is, when we can come from that place of center, then it's so much easier for us to move through it. So I'm inviting you to go back to basics. Stop, feel your feelings. Stop, feel your feelings. Stop, feel your feelings, and then take a big, deep belly breath. That's getting back to basics. That's getting back to basics. And that is so, so important for us to do. And the other thing that we want to do is to never lose our enthusiasm for life. That's the second thing. Never lose our enthusiasm for life. Never lose our enthusiasm for life. Yes, we are on the brink of big change. Yes, we are on the brink of something new. Yes, we are on the brink of exciting things. Yes, we are on the brink of heaven knows what. But we don't want to lose our enthusiasm for life in the process. We don't want to lose our enthusiasm in the process. So don't let anyone talk you out of your blessing. Don't let anyone talk you out of your miracle. Don't let anyone talk you out of moving forward in a new way. Don't let anyone talk you out of your enthusiasm for life. Maintaining your own enthusiasm for life is so important for us to do. So important for us to do, because change is going to happen whether we're enthusiastic about it or not. Whether we are excited about it or not, whether we want it to happen or not, whether we're dragging our feet or not, it doesn't matter. Change is going to happen anyway, because change is constant. And so what we want to do is to maintain our enthusiasm. Maintain our childlike wonder. I want to say our childlike awestruckness, or whatever that means. But being, how children are just awestruck about things that are happening, excited by the unknown. And so when we can move into that place of being excited about the unknown, recognizing that even though it's unknown to us, there's that knower within us that knows all. There's that divine intelligence within us from which we can never be separate, that knows all, that is all. That there's that knower within us that is always guiding us, always directing us, always showing us the way, always right there, right where we are. And so when we can be in that place, from that centered place of taking that big, deep belly breath, when we can be in that centered place and just allowing that all-knowing intelligence to guide us, that all-knowing intelligence to direct us, that all-knowing intelligence to show us the way, then we can stay in touch with being on the brink of miracles, being on the brink of blessings, being on the brink of the good life, being on the brink of, wow, being on the brink of everything good. That's where we want to be. That's the place from which we want to live our lives. We don't want to let somebody else, as I said, talk us out of our blessings, our miracles. So we want to surround ourselves with, we often say, with like-minded people. But if you are not of high mind, then you don't want to surround yourself with somebody who is of that consciousness. You want to surround yourself with people who are high-minded. People who are high-minded. And so people who are always looking up, people who are always seeing the possibilities, people who are always looking forward to the good, rather than those who will bring you down, or those who are always talking negatively about things, are always seeing the downside of whatever it is. Surrounding yourself with people who lift you up, surround yourself and through your own practice, keeping yourself in a high place, and then surrounding yourself with people who are in a high place, not comparing yourself with people. You know, I've heard a lot of comparisons over the last couple of years, and particularly in the last year, about what other churches are doing, people who are going back to in-person services, people who are doing whatever else, making those comparisons. And you know what? I always say the 11th commandment is thou shalt not compare. The 11th commandment is thou shalt not compare, because we can only compare equals. And so what is equal? We don't know what the equals are. And so what we do is we have to move in our own time, in our own way, according to our own guidance. And that's in our own personal lives, and that's in our community lives. Yes, there are in-person services being held. Yes, there are many things that are being done differently from the way we do them in our personal lives and in the way we do them in our community. And we each person and each community is acting according to its own uniqueness, is acting according to its own guidance, because there's a divine intelligence that is always guiding, that is always directing, that always knows exactly how we should do whatever it is we do, where we go, how we go, when to go. All that is already known. And so what we want to do is make sure that we aren't comparing. We aren't comparing ourselves with others. We aren't judging. We aren't blaming. We're just being. We're just being in that place of openness. We're just being in that place of oneness. We're being in that place of oneness with the all that is always showing us the way, that is always guiding us, as I said, that is always directing us, that is always knowing the how, that we don't know. And it's always showing us and directing us in that direction. So not allowing ourselves to be drawn off or away from our enthusiasm for life. Being excited about life, being willing to take that next step, being willing to do whatever it takes to live our best lives possible, as Rev.Sherry was talking about with regard to the foundations class. Just how do I live my best life? And we are in a teaching that lays it out for us, how we live our best lives. We have the principles, we have the practices for living our best lives. And so just moving into that place of being enthusiastic about it, and being enthusiastic about it, and just being excited about the opportunity to live our best lives, and making the commitment to do so. And so let's take a breath. The third thing I want you to think about is practice, practice, practice. Practice, practice, practice. And I'll say it again. Practice, practice, practice. That's what we have to do. Practice, practice, practice. Yes, we may have tried something before and it didn't work. Yes, we may have been trying to make these different changes and they haven't worked. But you know what it takes? It takes practice. It takes starting with our inner practice, starting with our spiritual practice. And I talk about that all the time. Everything starts with our spiritual practice. Everything starts with our connection with the one, with the all that is. You know that there's a song by Ricky Byers, "Do You Want to Know the Way?" And the song is, the words are, "If do you want to know the way in is the way out. The way in is the way out. The way in is the way out." And so when we're doing our spiritual practice, then we are developing that consciousness. We're developing our connection with our inner selves. And then that's the way we get, that's the way we externalize that. That's the way we begin to externalize and begin to see the experiences that we want to have. We begin to experience the life that we want to have. Because oftentimes what happens is we try to change things from the external first. And then we make these changes, and then we fall back to right where we were. Have you ever done that? You ever made a change about something, and then you look up and you're right back where you started? And then you try to do, you make all those steps, you know, and then you fall right back where you started. That happens because of what's known as a consciousness gap or a consciousness lag. Because we have tried to do something that we didn't have the consciousness for. So when we fall back, we always fall back to the consciousness that we had. The consciousness that we have, because we can't experience something that we are not, that we are not, that we don't have the consciousness for. Our experiences are exemplars of our consciousness. And so when we try to do something different, it could be losing weight, it could be having money, it could be whatever the case may be, when we jump up and decide that we're going to do this one thing and I've made this change. Well, you may have made the change externally, but if your consciousness is not there, we fall back to the consciousness where we are. We fall back to the consciousness that we have. That's what's known as the consciousness gap. We are trying to outdo this, and our consciousness is here. What we want to do is continue to practice so that our consciousness comes up to where we want it to be, and then our consciousness and our experience begins to outpicture in a way that we want it to, because it's always outpicturing our consciousness. And so when we want to know where we are, look in consciousness, look at what our experiences are. When we want to know what our consciousness is like, who am I attracting into my life? What experiences am I attracting into my life? What things am I doing over and over and over again, like that hamster on the wheel, over and over and over again? It's because we keep returning to that old consciousness, the consciousness that obtains, sustains. That's a basic science of mind principle, the consciousness that obtains, sustains. So whatever it is that we obtain something, with whatever consciousness we obtain something, or a particular experience, or a particular place, whatever consciousness we use to obtain that, is the consciousness that sustains it. If we didn't have the consciousness for that higher place, if we didn't have the consciousness to make more money, if we didn't have the consciousness for better health, if we didn't have the consciousness to lose weight, if we didn't have the consciousness for whatever, to have the kind of relationship that we want, if we didn't have the consciousness for that, then we're going to fall back. Even if we attain it, we cannot hold it, because we didn't have the consciousness to sustain it. And so always remember that the consciousness that obtains sustains. So what we do in order to sustain what we want to have, we have to up-level our consciousness. And that's what we do through practice. We do our practice, our meditation, we do our practice, our prayer practice, we do our practice with practitioners. And one of the things I want to say about practitioners is to remind us that we are all practitioners. We are all practitioners of religious science. We're all practitioners. Now, the licensed practitioners that we have here, the ones who are trained and skilled at spiritual mind treatment and at working with clients and at doing, holding the consciousness for the center or for people that they're working with. But we are all practitioners with the small p of religious science. And it's up to each of us to practice the principles, to use the principles and practices. It's up to each of us to act like we know that we are practitioners, and to not just spout off spiritual principles, but to actually practice them, because we are all practitioners. And then when we need that extra help, that's when we go to the licensed practitioners, to the professional practitioners who know how to hold that space for us, who know how to help us with our prayer practice, who know how to hold a space for us to move through. And so that's what I want us to keep in mind, that we are all practitioners, and it is necessary for us to practice all the time. This is how we operate on the brink. This is how we move through our lives, knowing that, yes, we are on the brink of something wonderful. We're on the brink of a new life. We're on the brink of a new day. And so I want us to live that on the brink from a place of excitement, from a place of just knowing that we can fly. If you notice the image in Nathan's song of the person who was jumping off, ready to fly, that's where we are. We're on the brink of a new day. We're on the brink of a new way. And while I'm talking about it, I'm going to invite you all. I think that the entire community should take this new foundations class. I think that everybody should be, whether you're a practitioner or a minister, or you just walked in the door or joined us on Zoom today, whether you're brand new, it doesn't matter, because we're all moving in with a new consciousness. We're all moving from a place of new beginnings for our center. We are moving forward. We're in the process of rebranding. We're in the process of doing so many things, of moving forward in a different kind of way, because even if the pandemic were over tomorrow and we could go back in person, everything has changed. Everything has changed. Everything has changed. We don't know what our congregation will look like. We don't know where our meeting place will be. So many things we don't know. And even if we did, everything has changed. And so what I'm inviting you to do is to fasten your spiritual seatbelts. Fasten your spiritual seatbelts. And one way of doing that is by joining in this class and taking foundations, going back to basics, going back with a child's mind of not knowing anything, and then learning together, moving together, growing together, moving in oneness. And that's what I'm inviting us all to do. That's what I'm inviting us all to do. Practice, practice, practice. Know that we are on the brink of change. Know that we are on the brink of a wonderful life. Yes, we are on the brink of living our best lives. Yes, we are on the brink of knowing what oneness is really all about, what living in oneness is really all about. Yes, we are on the brink of knowing that we are made in the image and likeness and out of pure spirit itself in a different kind of way. Yes, we are on the brink of knowing our oneness with each other. And this is what, because we know it for ourselves and know it with each other, then that's how we make the world a better place. And that's how we get to live a better life. And so I'm inviting you to take a breath with me, because I'm so excited right now. I'm about to jump out of my chair because I'm thinking about on the brink, just being on the brink of newness, being on the brink of a new day, being on the brink of a new way, being on the brink of really knowing my oneness with God right here and right now, and really experiencing that. And that's possible for each one of us in each and every moment of each and every day. I invite you to take a breath. I invite you to turn within with me. I invite you to be excited as I am about this new beginning. I invite you to really see yourself on the edge, see yourself knowing that you're just at that moment where you can do it. That's what On the Brink is all about. And that's what's exciting. That's what's exciting for all of us. And so I'm inviting you, be excited. Be excited as we turn within. Be excited knowing that you can turn within in this moment and know that there's one power, that there's one presence, that there's one love, that there's one life, that there's one activity, that there's one breath, that there's one. How exciting it is to know this truth. Take a breath and just breathe into that one power, that one presence, that one mind, that one life, that one breath. God, or no name at all. Spirit, whatever you want to call it, or no name at all. It doesn't matter. It just is. This isness that is God, this presence, this one is my life. This one is my life. It is that from which I can never be separate, no matter what happens. I can never be separate from it. I can never depart from his care. How good it is to know this truth. How exciting it is to know this truth. This is the same truth I know for each one of us. For each one of us. That this one power, this one presence, this one life is the life of each one of us. It is the source of our being. It is always right where we are. There's not a spot where it is not. There's not a spot where it is not. We live and we move and we have our being in it, and it lives and moves and has its being in each one of us. How good it is to know this truth. How good it is to be in this place of oneness and speak this word for each one of us this day. Speaking a word of new beginnings, knowing that in each and every moment of each and every day, we have the opportunity for new beginnings, and we each are open to new beginnings right now. And new beginnings means that we release and let go of those things that don't serve us. We release and let go of those things that have hindered or blocked in any way. And we open our hearts and we open our minds and just allow healing to take place. We allow wholeness to take place. We allow new beginnings to happen in our lives, new beginnings in our body temples, knowing that our body temples are filled with that radiant healing presence of God that is moving in and through each one of us right here, right now. In and through each cell, every organ, every tissue, every function of our body temples is responding to that radiant healing presence of God right here and right now. right here and right now. We're just moving in and in that presence, and that presence is moving in each one of us, and that all things are made new. All things are made new in our lives. All things are made new in relationships. Relationships in which there's forgiveness and there's compassion and there's release and there's a letting go of judgment and those things that don't serve. And there's a healing in relationships where healing needs to happen. In places where there has been loss, I know that God, the great comforter, is in the midst of everything, healing broken hearts, healing aching hearts. As those who have lost loved ones are beginning to just continue to release, continue to let go of their loved ones, releasing them to that greater yet to be. And just knowing that that great comforter that is God is right in the midst, healing the broken hearts. I know that everything is being made new. I know that there's abundance, there's a prosperity. There's all needs being met that is happening right now for each and every person. All needs being met. There's enough of everything that is necessary. But God shows up as whatever it is that we need. And God is showing up in each and every life, right here and right now, by this word that's being spoken. This is what I know to be the truth right here and right now. And so I'm just going to pause momentarily as I open this circle of prayer for you to speak the names of anyone you'd like held in prayer this day. You may speak their names silently or aloud, and you may speak them now. And so for all those whose names were spoken here this day, I know that God is right where each person is, guiding and directing them, lifting them up, loving, protecting. God is in the midst of everything, every situation, every circumstance, every event. God is in the midst. God is in the midst, regardless of the appearance. God is in the midst of everything that's going on. This prayer, as usual, always is going out to our government officials, knowing that decisions and choices are being made that are for the highest and best of all concerned. For the highest and best for all concerned, letting go of division, letting go of separateness or any idea of separateness, and knowing that wholeness reigns supreme, unity reigns supreme, but God is in the midst of everything. This prayer goes out to anyone on this planet needing a prayer this day. But God is in the midst of every situation and circumstance. I simply say, thank you, Father, Mother God, for the word that's spoken here this day. Thank you, Father, Mother God, for the perfect manifestation of this word spoken here this day. Thank you, Father, Mother God, for everything, for everything, for everything. Thank you, God. I know that all is well, for I know that all is God. And that's all I ever need to know. All is God. And so it is.